back to another episode of the Higher Level Podcast. So tonight I have a very special guest on with me. Jake Smith is joining me for a chat and a catch up. We've not spoken a while, mate.
No, I know people will be thinking Doolan's turned 20 years younger, but
I think Dylan's aging rapidly now. That's the downside of being a gym owner. And we've not spoken a while, mate. First of all, you're looking well, mate.
Thank you very much, man. Yeah, we're getting there. I think the last time I seen you was 120 kilo, so I went on the way down.
You're definitely looking well, mate. And I mean, you're a busy man. Things are going well with Fighting Talk. Everything seems to be going good, mate. I think the last time I seen you in person as well, you were suited and booted, but now you're styling with the chains and that, mate. I like it.
Oh, yeah, that's it, mate. Yeah, no, it's been really, really busy. It's obviously got PFL coming back up the northeast for the first show since, like, in terms of a major promotion, since you were down for Bellator, the European series. That's the last time we had a major show in the northeast, really.
How long ago was that, mate?
Sorry?
How long ago was that show, mate? That's
pre-COVID, so you're looking at probably 4 years.
Fucking hell, I don't think my daughter wasn't even born then.
Yeah, and then obviously before that, it would have been that Cage Warriors card with Alexander and Adnan Armani. So it's nice to see some big shows coming back to the northeast. Hopefully there'll be plenty of Scottish interest as well on it. I know there's a few guys looking to try and get matched. Yeah. But I guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah, PFL's a good show, man. It's obviously Stevie Ray's went on and done fantastic there, and that sort of opened some doors as well, specifically guys at higher level. So, yeah, I mean, the more doors the better, right?
Absolutely, and I mean the European series after, I guess, that Bellator season sort of dropping off the way it has, and it only been London and Dublin now, for it to be another show coming back. Granted, yes, I know they're going back to Dublin, but it's that European series, and hopefully we'll see some guys getting signed, getting on them developmental contracts, and ultimately ending up in them big tournaments. I mean, look at Brendan Loughnane. He's living proof of just what can happen when them Brits get to the top. So,
and right now, I would look at the PFL and say it's a better option than Bellator, because I mean, I've had my grievances with the way Bellator do things over the years, but it's just good that there's more options for the guys. And obviously as well, just before I forget, we'll get into more of the boxing stuff a wee bit later, but Aaron Shore, Floyd Mayweather. Aaron Shore.
Aaron Chalmers, yeah, Aaron, yeah. So I spoke to, he was on Sky Sports today, wasn't he? I spoke to Aaron a couple of days ago. Look, I know a lot of people have got an issue with him taking it. For me, he's been given the opportunity. He's getting paid a good amount of money. He would have been stupid not to take it. Aaron understands that he's going to get critics for it. Aaron understands that people won't like the fact it's him getting this fight. I know initially it should have been Liam Harrison, and then Liam had to pull, unfortunately, with an injury. But Aaron's going out there. He's getting paid, getting that money to provide for his family. So for me, obviously I know Aaron as well personally, but I think it's hard to knock that. And I'd like to see anybody else in his position not taking that same opportunity.
No, I mean, you can't knock the guy for taking it. You can't, and he's going to do better than Deji, right?
He's got to, surely.
But I mean, this is the way. This is what Floyd's doing now. This is how, and if the opportunity comes, you can make some money, go in there, and it'll be a big name fight as well. So it's more power to him, man. Well,
from the lucrative side of things as well, though. I mean, all the interviews Aaron's done so far, the mention of KSI has been there. So if he's going to go down now. We've seen Aaron in the cage, albeit the opponents, to an extent, of course, being hand-selected, hand-picked. But if that's the route he wants to go down, this is the perfect way into it. Fight one of the pound-for-pound greatest, especially of our era, arguably of all time, in Floyd Mayweather, albeit an exhibition bout. And if he wants to go that influencer route instead of going through the boxer or the Wasserman boxing, I believe that's who he's signed to anyway with Wasserman. And we've seen the relation Callis Owlan's got with KSI and the Misfits brand. You think maybe a nice enough performance on this, he'll have every influencer, every YouTuber, every ex-Love Island that calling him out, looking for that boxing bout on the next Misfits show. And if that's who he wants to go, power to him.
It's the smarter route to go, really. I mean, there's no downside from this fight, because let's be real, Floyd's, like, he's old, he's probably way past his best, but he is still far superior to the guys he's fighting, and there's nobody expects Aaron to come out and win the fight. So the upside from him is if he loses a fight, which everybody expects, let's be honest, but the publicity from it, and like you say, the opportunities that arise from it. So it's a no-brainer. He takes the fight, of course you do.
Yeah. And I mean, that's probably not going to be the most mental fight we'll see in the next 3 months. I know we're going to get into that a bit later, but I mean, look, we see the way that this boxing world's going in. Who knows?
Yeah.
This could be even more of an opportunity for MMA to thrive when
Mm.
boxers are still trying to, I guess, it's almost like re-identify themselves, but as what? The loyalists are hating this new breed coming in. The new breed's bringing this new audience. Like I say, we'll touch on it later, but I think it's an
Yeah.
interesting time for boxing and arguably the best time for MMA to really, really establish himself right up there.
Yeah, 100%. But in the meantime, we have some serious business coming up. Volkanovski, Makachev, massive card. What a good fights in the card. It's a big fight. I'll be honest, it's a fight I was surprised by. I didn't expect that to be that fight to happen so quickly. We'll go through the card, but I want to start at the top fight. I want to start at Volkan and Makachev. Thoughts on the matchup and it being made this early in Makachev's reign as lightweight champion?
Yeah, there is. It's a really interesting one, isn't it? Look, what Volk 12-0, Islam 12-1 in the UFC, respectively. And it's like I've been so to and fro with this fight. I've spoken to so many people in. Every time I speak to somebody, I think I change my mind on which way it's going to go. Islam, of course, is going to be the bigger man, but Volk's got the bigger
Yeah.
reach, which I find really interesting. It's only by an inch. Islam, I think, 4 inches taller, but physically, he's going to be the much bigger man. Volk's been in there. He started his career at welterweight. He's been in there with some of the biggest guys comparatively. Looking at Islam, much bigger guys. Sorry, it's such an interesting fight because we've seen both guys go the distance. We've not seen Volk at 155 pound in the physique he's in now.
Yeah.
I know it was a little bit made of Islam not showing up to the welcome party, if you like, with the when they first arrived in Australia, and somebody pointed out a fact of, I wonder if he wasn't there because he knows he's looking a bit big and the weight might be an issue. Of course, it's all speculation, but there's so many factors going into this. Can Volk push the pace he normally pushes over 5 rounds with this extra 10 pound? How will Islam cope with somebody who is in an absolute purple patch of their career? There's so many questions, and I struggle to see this not being a thrilling fight.
Agree. It's definitely it's a compelling fight. When you mentioned about Volk there with the extra weight, I think probably Volk is just going into this fight not having to cut because, as we know, it's story in these past, he's been much bigger than he is now. It's just it's the size factor I can't go over, and I get you've mentioned the reach there. That's the bit I can't go over. We do have weight classes for a reason, and I reckon Volkanovski going up to lightweight causes problems for a lot of lightweights. It's just Makachev to me is special, isn't he? And that if you look at the Ortega fight, the position he got in, which he done fantastic to get out of Volkanovski. If that's Makachev in that position, does he get out of that?
It's the grit and tenacity he had to get out of that with the Ortega fight, though, that I think again is another factor that makes it so interesting. If then he got put to sleep or he tapped, then you'd be in this fight somehow came about. You'd then be, of course, questioning. But Volk's grappling credential, I think, is going to be a lot higher. And I think we're going to see that. He's very wrestly. He's very wiry. Whenever somebody's looking to take him down, he's straight back to his feet. He's straight in there scrambling. I think it's really interesting to see, like we say again, this extra weight, how that's going to impact the fight. Because, yes, of course, there'll be the likes of Dan Hooker and stuff in his camp and in and around his camp. But it will be so hard to bring somebody into your camp for this 6 weeks to replicate and imitate the way that Islam Makhachev fights. And then on Makhachev's part, I know you mentioned it before about this being a strange one for his first title defense. Fair play, he's going into lines then. He's going into Volk's backyard to try and really, really upset the apple cart here. And I mean, you can just imagine when Islam Makhachev walks out, the type of reaction he's going to get off that crowd.
Yeah.
And look, Khabib, of course, in his corner for the first time. This is really the coming of age fight for Makhachev to establish himself, for me at least, as his own fighter, because I don't think he's necessarily been in the shadow of Khabib, but you can't ignore the impact of one of the greatest to ever compete in sport being in that corner, taking the role off his father the way he did. So for this to be the first fight without Khabib in his corner, I think it's massive for Makhachev, and like I say, arguably his coming of age fight.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing as well, I'm surprised it's so quick in his reign, but then you look at the other lightweights that are around at the moment and around the top, it's probably, I think you probably give Volk a chance over most of those guys competing against Makhachev.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, I think that's why the fight's potentially been made.
Yeah, I mean, there's also potentially definitely two of the top end of that division, 155 tied up now. Whether it's at 155 or 170, we'll wait and see. But
Yeah.
Chandler out the running, we've got Poirier sort of kicking about there as well. But I think this is something that maybe the division needed just to liven itself up a little bit. Granted, Makhachev sort of came off the backfield really, but you've been looking at the same 4 or 5 names for the past couple of years in and around the top of that division.
Yeah.
Get that new blood in the shape of Volkanovski and see what he can do. Look, he's been very, very vocal in wanting to keep both divisions. If he does win on Saturday night, Sunday morning, he wants to keep both divisions very, very active. Of course, the co-main event that night really solidifies that he has to if he does win. But we're in for one hell of a main event.
I'd be looking if we're playing matchmaker here. We're looking potentially at, right. So obviously the tough series has been announced. Chandler, McGregor. If we're looking at let's say Makhachev retains his belt. If we're looking at then Makhachev fighting the winner of that tough series fight, and the UFC praying it's McGregor, and they get that whole storyline. It's kind of the way it seems to be getting set up.
It does, but then it's one of them. If they put McGregor up to 170, which it's sounding like the top coaches are going to compete at, it's going to be a welterweight bout as opposed to a lightweight bout. Mm-hmm. But again, Conor's still not been tested yet this year. Mm-hmm. Conor needs to do 6 months in the testing pool, so we're looking now at least September before that.
Yep, that's right. That's totally blew my lap. I was thinking out the water. And again, still, I think Conor, even with Chandler, I think Chandler's probably as good a matchup as Conor could get in the division, given that Chandler has the tools to wrestle, but I don't think he'll use them. But, anyway, you mentioned the co-main event, Rodriguez, Josh Emmett. Interesting fight. Josh Emmett's one of the guys. He doesn't get spoke about very much. He's not like Yair Rodriguez. He's not flashy like Rodriguez. But the guy's a machine.
It's two totally different characters, totally different fighting styles. Coming into this, it's your traditional, can't do any of his fundamentals wrong, and Josh Emmett coming forward. Getting on now as well, I think he's 37, 38. This is arguably his last chance to get his hands on UFC gold and ultimately unify the division with Volk if that comes about. I know Yair is ranked number 2, I think, in the division, but for me, I struggle with this being an interim title shot. Don't get me wrong, I completely understand why. Because if Volk goes in there, has an absolute war, and he's out for a while, it makes sense to have that interim belt there. Of course, it's probably my English or British bias. Arnold Allen, of course, I would like to see in there. I know he's spoken and said he can't fight on this London card, but he had been offered Max Holloway, and it was an injury that's kept him out of that. You've got to think, in the UFC's mind, knowing they had the main event we've got on Saturday planned, that could have been not only a co-main event, but an interim title bout. I think the UFC have done well. They've moved quickly, and they've put together the best they can at this 2nd against 5th for the interim title.
Yeah, and it's a shame that we Arnold Allen, because that is a fight that, because we obviously know who he is, and we know the sort of run he's on and how well he's been doing. Problem is, outside the UK, to the average MMA fan, if you say his name, they're not going to know who he is. He needs that sort of massive fight just to introduce himself to the mainstream every day in the UFC.
I think, to an extent, Leon Edwards was the exact same.
Yeah.
Leon was very well known within the MMA circle, but maybe outside that, not as much. He got that finish. He got that world title. And I know you've been on a few times on 5 Live, but it was great to hear him on 5 Live the other day. And he was sitting chatting. And it's one of them now. He has crossed over to that mainstream media. And there's so many more of my friends texting us about, this Leon Edwards. Oh, did you see this head kick? And that's exactly the fight Arnold Allen needs. With this, does a rising star come out of it? I mean, if Rodriguez gets another one of his crazy knockouts like you got against Korean Zombie, then you think that sets everything up as a highlight reel going into a unification bout. Josh Emmett, he's 5-1 in his last 6. He's got some real momentum behind him at the minute.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd quite like to see Josh do it. Just he's been around the sport. Granted, maybe the pedigree of fighter he's fought comparatively to Rodriguez is slightly lower, but they've been tough fights. It's not like he's been fighting nobody.
Yeah. And I mean, stylistically, Josh Emmett's an in-your-face fighter. Is Yair? How will Yair cope with that? Because he's a guy that likes a bit of space, and obviously he's flashy kicks and stuff. Don't get me wrong, the guy's been through some wars as well. It's an interesting fight. But like you, I would quite like to. Josh Emmett feels like the underdog, right?
Yeah.
You kind of want him to win. But the problem probably with 145 is maybe a problem that's a turn in lightweight is you look down at the contenders and you think, right, Max Holloway probably beats most of the guys, but then doesn't beat Volk. And this is what happens when you get a dominant champion until a Leon Edwards comes along and head kicks the shit out of you.
Yeah, well, even that, like, especially after the third Volk Holloway fight, and for me, Volk put that fight to bed. Then there's no interest in a fourth. There's just not, because Volk was so dominant in that the trilogy fight. But it'll be very interesting to see. Obviously, once Arnold's back from his injury, Ortega will be back soon as well. You'd like to think. I could see 145 being a bit of a hotbed for the next year.
Yeah, it's a good division. It always has been. It's right now. There's so many fights. There's so much talent out there. It's insane. We're, as MMA fans, we've never been more spoiled since the sport began than we are right now.
Yeah, no, we absolutely haven't. And even looking at this third bout on this card, talking about being spoiled, I think this is going to be another one that we're absolutely spoiled with.
Yeah, Randy Brown and Madalena. What would you make of the fight? I thought obviously Brown is. I like Randy Brown.
Yeah, I like Randy Brown, but I can't help but kind of feel the UFC are using Brown here to really build Madalena up in his home stadium for the first time. While he's been in the UFC, his first time in front of a home crowd. I can't help but feel that's the way that they're trying to take this.
Oh no, they're 100%. That is exactly the route they're going. Brown, don't get me wrong, it's not a gimme fight. He proposes some challenges, but I mean that's what the UFC are banking on. But it'll be an interesting fight. How do you see the fight going?
See, this is what I mean. It'll be interesting to see because Brown is durable. Last three fights, I think, all three decisions, and Madalena's not made it out the first round in his UFC tenure so far. 3 first-round stoppages, all by heavy strikes. You wonder, coming out, it's Madalena's to lose. Will the pressure get to him? Will being in front of a home crowd get to him? If he gets out that first round, is it almost then a case of, oh, I've not been here before in the UFC?
Yep.
There's so many factors at play, and I think they're hoping, exactly like you say there, that Brown can maybe cause some issues, but not too many.
Yeah, I mean that I would imagine the UFC will maybe, obviously you want the quick finishes, but you also need to see a guy go into the later rounds and see how he handles himself. I think he'll come through with flying colours. I think it'll be a fun fight while it lasts, but I don't know if it makes the second round though.
Yeah, it's judging from Madalena's form, especially at the minute, it's so difficult to see how the fight makes it out that first round. And you think it's going to be the hometown hero in there. The adrenaline will be pumping so much, but he's got a good team around him that he'll keep his head on his shoulders when he's making that walk. It's just going to be. It's another one, very much almost like the main event where there's so many factors at play. You're wondering how it's going to turn out. If Brown can get it over the 3 rounds, will he edge a decision? Can Madalena get in there and do what he's done so far in the UFC? There's so many factors at play.
Here's a good thing, we're talking about it now. We don't have long to wait. We're
No,
going to find out pretty soon. And moving on to so we'll jump through the rest of the card because I really want to get to the headline on the prelims as well. We've got Parker Porter and Justin Taffia. What do you think?
Again, I can kind of see this being another one where, I've never seen Taffia in the shape he's in. I don't know if you've seen that photo that's doing the rounds at the minute.
I did, yeah. I saw it on Instagram.
Yeah, he's looking in very good nick. And look, I know aesthetically you can't take a lot, but it shows commitment from a guy who's went in there looking more like Parker Porter than Parker Porter himself, right? So there's got to be something there, whether it's more commitment, whether it's more strength and conditioning, getting in there.
Just is it a sign of just more work in the gym?
Yeah, potentially.
That's it. And then obviously Jimmy Crute. I like Jimmy Crute, and then Alonzo Menenfield. Now I fancy Alonzo in this fight.
Cruz coming in now is such an unknown. What, 2 years since he's been in that cage?
Yep.
So much could have changed since then. And he's only 26. I hadn't realised that till I was looking up the card earlier on. He's a young man, and he feels like he's been in the UFC forever. Look, Cruz got some big scalps, of course. Paul Craig probably most notably under that. He took a bit of time away after a bit of a skid, and you look at who the skid's against, the 2-fight skid. It's Anthony Smith and it's Jamal Hill. I mean, if you're going to lose to two people, it's your champion and potentially a title contender that you'd be wanting to lose to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's a smart move. He loses some fights, takes the time away, goes and reassesses and looks at things, and he's young enough, especially at that weight. 26 isn't old for a light heavyweight. When you look up look at Glover Teixeira, for example.
Yeah.
Speaks volumes. So it's a good fight, obviously, in Australia as well. But the one I'm obviously looking forward to the main event, of course, but Tyson Pedro, and I always murder his name, Bukakis.
Yeah.
I like the fact Tyson Pedro, again, a guy that's, you just mentioned Paul Craig. Tyson Pedro's been in there with him. Modestus obviously coming through from Cage Warriors as well. A massive opportunity from Tyson Pedro's been in the UFC for a while now. But overall, he's a less experienced fighter in terms of cage time. UFC more experienced, but overall. What do you think? Does Modestus get this done?
I mean, it's rare you get that second call into the UFC after you've been cut. Modestus Bukakis has got it. I don't think anybody would have blamed him if he'd not have taken this fight and maybe waited it out and took a bit more of an entry-level fight. For me, I think this is a big risk for Bukakis. Yeah. I would absolutely love to see him get it done. And like you say, yes, he is the more experienced fighter on paper, but at the level, Pedro, and especially the run Pedro's on at the minute, 2-fight winning streak, I think it's the best that he's had in his UFC tenure so far. It's such a big ask to go in there. And I know it's a short notice fight. Modestus just not recently came out of his camp. So it looks like he would have went straight back into another fight camp. Pedro, obviously training for somebody else. How will that affect him going into this? How different is Modestus' style to the guy he was preparing for? I'd love to see Modestus do it, but I do think it's a big ask.
Yeah, absolutely is. And it's one of the ones, sometimes but then maybe they think for him is when does the opportunity, if it comes again, it's one of those ones. I think overall it's going to be a really, really good card, but can I want to jump back to the boxing now and let's talk a wee bit. So MMA versus boxers. I don't hate it, but it annoys me the fact you don't see any boxers coming to MMA. I totally understand why. So let's be honest, they're going to get the shit beat out of them.
Are about Jake Paul's on his way?
No. Jake Paul gets murdered against the top guys. Probably the same as well. But Anthony Pettis, Roy Jones Jr. Oh, I don't like that.
So I've obviously seen the news and stuff. Is this exhibition or is this a pro boxing bout?
No, this I can't answer, but I don't think it's going to be like you're not allowed to knock each other out type of thing. I don't know. I mean, we spoke off camera obviously about this. It's just, I mean, obviously money's a motivator, right? But I don't know, and it's just like Roy Jones Jr. I mean, he's obviously a lot older, but I've got no doubt that left hook still knocks you out if it catches you. In terms of the rules, I'm not 100% sure. I've got a funny feeling it may be exhibition. But how did they prevent a knockout in a fight? I don't understand. How would they do that?
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I'm with you. I can't imagine former bare knuckle fighter Jorge Masvidal wanting to have an exhibition bout on his card. Like I could, if it's not an exhibition, then yeah, what commission's letting this go ahead? Because come on, Pettis going in against the likes of Stevie Ray not 6 months ago, and now going against Roy Jones Jr. Come on.
Just obviously under a different, and then we've got obviously Paul Daly. No, his fight can't be exhibition. There's no way Paul Daly is pulling punches to not knock you out. So I think Anthony Taylor, this may be his last appearance in a ring or cage. That one.
I feel Paul Daly could pull a punch and it'd still knock someone out. Like he's just a unit of a man, isn't he?
It could be the night of the left hooks. Roy Jones Jr., Paul Daly, two of the best in the business. And the one thing I'm quite intrigued by, obviously, is the Jose Aldo Jeremy Stevens fight. More because it's two MMA fighters moving into boxing. I quite like the fight. Did you fancy Jeremy Stevens in that fight?
Well, they've got the history in the cage as well, don't they, them two? So it's that extra layer to it. I don't know. I mean, all three of these fights came right off the back burner, didn't they? It was just nobody seen this coming. It come out of left field, and Ariel was announcing it, and Christ knows what was going on. But yeah, it's almost like this misfits boxing thing over here, with slightly more credibility, with the likes of Aldo and Jeremy Stevens on the card. But yeah. I wonder as well, the likes of PFL, because I presume Showtime and Stevens are still both signed. Therefore, how has their release clause come about?
I think as it promotions work together and letting their fighters go out and be part of something, and I don't know, it's like so murky the way everything's done. Like you've got KSI fighting two guys in a night, although I've got my own thoughts on that. It's just, I don't know, it's weird. And then you've got Prime sponsoring the UFC and Logan Paul making digs at Paddy Pimblett. Fucking world's went mad. So you just need to take it. There is no point getting annoyed about it. I don't watch it all. Obviously, the YouTube boxing stuff, I'll catch clips, but it's.
I like what Ben Shalom, the boxer, matchmaker, and chief exec says. If you're going to do it, fine, but promote it as an influencer sport or don't promote it as professional boxing, because that's then when the lines get blurred. And so this one, let's say BT Sport pick up this Game Bread fight card and they're going to charge $14.95. Are you watching it?
No, of course, no. I'm definitely not watching it. It's just one of them. I mean, I don't know, is that maybe I'm getting older. I'm nearly 40 now, so maybe there's kids out there that will watch this stuff, but I don't know, mate. I think I'm just going to stick to MMA and follow that. It seems like the better route for me anyway. I can't keep up with this fucking YouTube shit, man.
For the time being, we'll see what happens when Jake Paul gets his mitts on this sport, but it's one of them we've got to wait and see, isn't it?
Oh, come on, I mean, you've got Logan Paul who's went into wrestling, which I think is a better fit for him. Seems to be brilliant at that. Jake Paul, what weight is he? He would be what, middleweight maybe?
Yeah.
Right, the top middleweight at UFC. No, that's not going to happen. PFL, probably there's matchups here they can have from, but at some point he's going to get smashed if he stays in MMA, I think. Yeah. But on that note, mate, listen. Thanks for coming on the show. It was nice to catch up with you, mate. I appreciate the time.
No, thank you for having us on, mate. Really enjoyed it.